Okay, welcome back, everybody. Episode 5. It's been a while, um, but you know, didn't have a lot to talk about, and now we do. So that's a good thing. We are finally back at it, and today we're going to be talking. Well, just we're going to be talking about a bunch of the camp buzz. Um, are we believing it? Are we buying it? Are we selling it? Which of these guys should you be targeting in your drafts? We're going to be talking about for the most part, the relevant fantasy players that you're going to be taking in your drafts coming up. We have a list of each players. We're kind of just going to popcorn off each other, bounce off each other's points. We're probably going to disagree a good amount in this video, just based on the previous discussion we had before we started the video. There's a couple players that we're pretty split on, so it's gonna be a fun video. But I really wanted to start this video off with a guy that has been getting a ton of buzz. Not quite as much as Parker Washington, but Luther Burden gave us quite a scare yesterday or 2 days ago. I can't remember exactly when the injury happened. Luther Burden, if you saw the video, it's not anything like hard to watch, but he comes up limping, or he pulled after a one-on-one rep. Turns out to be a groin injury. They said he's going to miss a little bit of time. And I don't exactly know how much time he's going to miss. They weren't very clear on it. They just said a bit of time. So the clarity there isn't exactly, it's not as clear as we'd like it to be. We kind of would love to know how much time he's going to miss, because that maybe determines where you want to be taking him in your drafts. But nonetheless, I moved him down my rankings a little bit. He is at 45 for me now. So I moved him behind Mike Evans, moved him behind Tet, Travis Etienne. Not that matters too much to you guys, but I think it should, if you're drafting here coming up in the next week, if you draft a little bit early, it should factor a little bit into your process. If you, depending on how high you're taking him, maybe you can get him to fall a little bit. People are spooked on it. But the first, let's talk about Burn a little bit, because are you moving him down at all? Like, how are you assessing the situation? Are you kind of just like, we got 5 weeks till the season. How are you playing it right now?
I personally thought, just with the amount of target competition in general, that I thought, because I'd seen him going as high as the third round, I thought that was a little bit extreme. For me, the way that I do redraft now, and I've changed my draft strategy a lot the last few years, but it's like I want to get, with my first 3 picks, like guys that I believe are going to for sure contribute. Because I think if you miss one of your first 3, sometimes stuff happens. Like 1 year I drafted Malik Neighbors. He gets hurt, or last year he gets hurt. One of my redraft teams, I limped into the playoffs and lost in the first round. Like, that's part of it. But I think in general, with that much target competition in the offense, like, I couldn't pull the trigger that high. I like the Bears. I love the Bears offense this year, but I just couldn't do that. So I don't think it moves him down a ton for me per se, just because I would still draft him way above a lot of the receivers that I had already had right after him. I'm a little bit concerned that they haven't put a timeline on it yet. I think it's one of those situations where it's worth, waiting for an official diagnosis. And I also think too that, with adductors like being so close to, they're very similar to hamstrings, where once you mess it up once, it becomes really easy to, kind of mess it up again. And so I think that that's the only thing that's kind of scary for him for the whole year. But I also think too, just the amount of buzz and hype that he was receiving, like, they were kind of ready to make him the guy. And it was, like I've said in one of our previous videos, like, Burden and Loveland are the guys that Ben Johnson drafted himself. I think Adunze is incredibly talented. I think a lot of that foot stuff is overblown. But at the end of the day, like, Adunze wasn't one of Ben Johnson's guys. He was part of the previous regime. So I'm looking at Luther Burden and I'm saying, hey, if this is somebody I want to take a swing on, I'd rather it be in the 5th round. I think the 4th round is still a little bit too early. Just like I would rather have Mike Evans at this point. I'm not as big of a believer in him this year. Love him as a long-term talent, but this year I'm not feeling the Panthers offense quite as much. I don't necessarily love Canales as a play caller, but I would take him. I would like the safety of like a Mike Evans, or I think even probably Devontae Adams is going around that area. Like I'm taking those guys in redraft over Burden, but some of it has to do with the injury now, but a lot of it just had to do with the amount of target competition in general.
Yes,
it definitely sucks if people are out there and they're already drafting. Like you never want to see a guy that you took in the 3rd or 4th round go down with an injury in training camp. We just kind of we wait for an official timeline. He definitely gets dropped if he's missing, I would say 3 or more weeks in the regular season. Then it's kind of like, hey, I can't draft a guy this high who we don't even know if he's the clear number 1 in the room. Even all the hype that he's got, he could be awesome, but it's just, can you justify using that high of a draft pick on him? I don't know.
Yeah, I think if he does fall, it's probably better for people like you who were struggling with, I don't know. I don't even want to know. I don't even want to try to pick a winner between Rome, Loveland, and Burden, because I think now that he's falling, but honestly, especially like I've been tracking a lot of the ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper ADP. Burden doesn't go in the 4th round, and he goes in the 5th round in a lot of those. So I think it's a lot of like he might even fall a little bit more, and people like you who were a little bit lower on him and unsure are going to probably be like more now. Okay, now I'm more willing to take the risk on him. I'm way more willing to take this swing at this price, because at the end of the day, especially like a lot of these players, very few of them were like, okay, I just don't like them as players. They're not very good. If you're going in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, you're probably pretty good. It's just a matter of opportunity cost. Like what is the trade-off? Like, am I passing on, let's say, a Mike Evans who's for the 49ers, no Pearsall anymore? Do I really want to take the risk on Burden being, maybe being Amon-Ra St. Brown, or would I rather take the safety of having the number 1 for the 49ers? It's stuff like that. I think those type of decisions that make it, I guess a little bit difficult for people to pull the trigger on Burden, although he is a fun young player. I love him a ton. I've kind of not cooled off, but I had him like almost 3rd round initially, and then I kind of pulled back because I really like Scat, like Jalen Waddle this year. There's a bunch of guys in that range that I think have just as much up, who are maybe a little bit safer, but I still love Burden. I think he's going to be fine. Should be ready. And I think that, as long as re-injure it, as long as, things go according to plan, sounds probably going to need a little bit of time, miss a little bit of time, and he's going to be ready for week 1. But yeah, just something to keep an eye on till we get like an official timeline, like you mentioned. A guy who, while we move on here, who looks like he's going to be ready for week 1, Malik Neighbors. I guess I'll take point because I'll be super quick with this one. I'll be straight to the point. Malik Neighbors is in the 2nd round. He's inside my top 24 now. I mean, if you watched videos of him running routes, moving around, he wasn't placed on the PUP. That was already like green flag number 1. Like, okay, he's not going to miss the first 4 games. He's going to miss 1, 2, 3 for the first 1 to 3 games to start the season. Nah, it doesn't. Honestly, at this point, I don't expect him to miss any time. We saw him running routes, cutting, stopping, starting. He looks like Malik Neighbors. Just a crazy like kind of flip on its head, because he was going like the 4th round of a lot of these drafts on most sites, to be honest. Now he's like risen up all the way into the 2nd round at the at the least or at the most like the early third round. That's as far as he's falling really. But Malik Neighbors, I mean, to get a talent like that where he's even going right now in the middle into the second, early third, you're not going to find that anywhere else because if he was healthy, let's just say that he didn't tear his ACL, he would be going, let's say, probably in front of Jefferson, in front of Lamb. He'd be going in the first round. So that's just kind of where I'm at with him. I have no holdups anymore. I saw what I needed to see. The fantasy doctor guys, I know that some people aren't fans of them because they get stuff wrong, but here's the thing. They're the best at what they do, and they get stuff wrong all the time too. I'm willing to take the risk, though, on Neighbors, how good he is, the talent. I know the offense isn't great, but, dude, this is Malik Neighbors. This guy led the targets per game. There's really not much else to say. As long as I assume that he's going to be ready for week 1, and I know that you may feel a little bit differently, so I'm going to maybe give a different perspective. I don't know if you've seen the videos, but, I mean, he's going to be good to go.
Yeah, I'll keep this one relatively short and sweet. The main cause for concern that I have moving him into the second round is that like he looks good in his videos. Obviously, he's a target hog and he's a monster when he does play. I also will admit I'm a little biased because I drafted Malik Neighbors at the end of the first round of one of my redraft leagues last year, and that was the team that limped into the playoffs. Like, it sucked. It makes your life harder when one of your top guys goes down. I think in general, the thing with Malik Neighbors is that I like a lot of the running backs in the range that people are moving him into a little bit too much to like pass or like to go ahead and like hit the draft button. I think if he makes it to the third and I was drafting at the top of the third round, and let's say that I had already gotten my, Jahmyr Gibbs and Kenneth Walker, or Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, and Chase Brown, Amarian Hampton. Like, if I had already gotten my guys at running back and it was time to start looking at wide receivers, then it's like, all right, like, he's back. He's going to be a star. Like, this is a great way to start my draft off. But I think that, like, if I haven't taken a second running back yet, or if I don't, like, if I took wide receiver in the first round, this kind of just goes a little more into the draft strategy of everything. I would much rather, hey, let's go get the running. Let's go get a Gentith. Let's go get a K9. Let's go get an Amarian Hampton, a Chase Brown, and kind of live to see another day. But I think that we'll know a lot more when we see him in preseason action. Like, that's somebody that I'm watching. I don't like drafting. I'm a little different than you. I don't like drafting until pretty much the preseason over if I'm doing redraft, just because it's like, why? Like there's not benefit to me, especially when money gets involved. Of like, doing a draft just because I'm excited about it. I want to see him play some preseason football, but I think that if he looks good, then the talent isn't impossible to ignore.
Yeah, I don't even think we're going to see him play preseason. I'm not going to lie. Doesn't look like the Chiefs are probably going to let Mahomes play. Maybe he does. Maybe plays like a drive or two. But yeah, I don't think the Malik Neighbors he may not even step on the preseason field or on the field in preseason. I don't really care. I do think you make some good points, though, when it comes to like how far does he rise, and you have to make the decision between a Neighbors and Hampton, Neighbors and Saquon, Neighbors and Chase Brown, Neighbors and Kenneth Walker, guys like that, Neighbors and Brock Bowers. That makes some sense. Drake London, yes. I think that's where I kind of draw the line. Maybe I kind of envision him probably either like in that I have Derrick Henry, Drake London, AJ Brown, McBride, Rashee Rice, and then Neighbors. So Neighbors is like, I guess he's my 24th ranked player. So he's just inside the top 2 rounds. I think I could see him getting it like being right there with Derrick Henry. And I think at that point, it just becomes, okay, do you want the number one in the Atlanta offense? Or do you want AJ Brown, or do you want Malik Neighbors? It's a conversation that becomes very interesting, and I think that's one we're probably going to be having when people like you draft in, the end of August. Let's say that like first couple days in September, that's going to be probably the conversation we're having, because I don't even think the train's going to stop here. It's going to keep going up. If he gets up into that range with Saquon Hampton, Genty, all those guys, Chase Brown, then I think, I start to pump the brakes a little bit, because I think it might be a little bit of a slower start early on because he's coming off an ACL. He's just going to need to get his feet underneath him. It takes a lot to like trust again and to really for that light to turn on in your brain. But yeah, I think that it's definitely, if you're looking for upside, and you can start your draft with Jamar Chase or Puka, and you can come back around and you're like, oh, Malik Neighbors, or you can start your John and Gibbs and be like, ooh, Malik Neighbors, my wide receiver one, come back around, take Trey McBride, Joe Collins, Devontae Smith, Rashi Rice, someone like that. I think that it changes everything, especially, look, we draft, of course, safe picks are cool, but at the end of the day, Malik Neighbors, once he gets his legs underneath him, say like it takes till week 8 till he gets his legs up underneath him. Who cares at that point? Your team is probably, hopefully, in a good place. Then you get the rest of the year in the sprint with week 15, 16, 17, and you get Malik Neighbors and you got Jamar Chase in your lineup as well. Nobody's beating that. Like you everybody's first two receiver spots in your lineup. Like that is such an advantage. And if you hit on one or two other picks and you're rolling guys out there like you have multiple, like not even just two, but 3 or 4 like advantages at every single position, it becomes in your league or become much higher. And that's where I like taking advantage of this Neighbors price right now. If you're drafting this, because the talent, I don't see anybody in this area. Like I like Drake London, AJ Brown, of course, in his prime, but nobody's as talented as Neighbors in that area. It's just not even close. Like he would be right there with Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, probably right behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, where if he was healthy, being drafted right now. So that's just kind of way I'm viewing it. I totally understand the people who are a little bit more reserved though. The Giants aren't a great offense, and it's an interesting trade-off, a guy coming off an ACL versus a lot of those good running backs in that range if he does get that high. So let's talk about a wide receiver, though, that I know you love. We're once again going to be probably a little bit torn on this one. I think I'm leaning more towards you, though. Like I mentioned a while back that I am becoming a little bit more open to taking Parker Washington. However, he just keeps rising and rising and rising. And like we talked about with Neighbors, like when does that become a point where you're like, okay, hold on a second. Like I'm between, I don't know, let's say Parker Washington rises into the mid, and you talk about those guys like Devontae Adams, Dunes, David Montgomery, Bashal Tootin, Travion Henderson. Like if he starts to get up in that range, man, I just don't think I'll have any sort of Parker Washington. I understand that he can be really good, but I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk. But dude, the drumbeat is so loud for him right now. And I hear something almost feels like a single day camp about he's the engine of this offense. You don't hear anything about Trevor now. You don't hear anything about Jacoby Myers. You hear some about Brian Thomas, but I don't think that the role is going to I guess his role is going to be catered as much to fantasy points. It could, but yeah, I think Parker Washington's anybody who is in on Parker Washington like you has to be incredibly happy about what they've heard, because yeah, people who thought that role was going to stick looks like they're going to be right. I don't know how good he's going to be and if that comes to fruition, but yeah, I'll let you take this away, because I want you to break it down for me. Like try your best right now to turn me to the dark side, because I'm struggling with this guy. Like I just don't know how much. I don't know if I can take him if he's going around the Tate range, JMO range, Roma Dunze, Devontae Adams. I don't know.
I think like he's an interesting one because where I have him positioned in my rankings, um, it is less about like his overall talent and it's more about the amount of target competition in that offense. It's like, so to start the conversation with the argument for it, Trevor Lawrence is projected to be QB4 by Vegas this year. So like people are, in my opinion, are too low on Trevor Lawrence. Vegas really likes Trevor Lawrence as a whole. And Vegas also really likes Jacksonville's offense as a whole. I think the Jaguars are going to be pretty good again as a team. And I don't think that the breakout at the end of last year was an accident. Here's where like my evaluation of him, I also think like I love drafting guys based on their play caller. I think Liam Cohen is probably one of the 5 best offensive minds in football right now. And they're like in his offenses have existed tons of fantasy monsters. Baker was his best under him. Chris Godwin had an awesome season under him. Like Mike Evans was super productive. And then last year, Trevor Lawrence looked better than he ever had, and he finally looked competent for once. As his biggest hater, like he finally looked competent, and he looked like an EXO number 1 overall pick, and it was because he's got one of the 5 best play callers in the NFL calling plays. I think when Parker Washington, where I personally would pump the brakes because of the amount of talented pass catchers in that offense. You've got BTJ, Jacoby won't leave the field. Much as everyone doesn't want to admit it, Jacoby Myers won't leave the field because he's a great run blocker and he plays football well. He's a good football player. He might not be a fantasy icon, but he does things that NFL teams like, even if it's not as flashy to, the football fans who are only watching football because of their fantasy football team. And so it's like they do have BTJ. Travis Hunter will play some offense, but I think that's going to be – I think they're going to rein him in quite a bit just because they don't want him hurt and they don't want him run into the ground because they're going to try to win playoff games this year. Brenton Strange is a decent pass catcher. So the thing you have to ask yourself when drafting Parker Washington versus someone else, and I call Parker Washington and Luther Burden, it's the same problem. If at what point is a player of similar or even lesser talent who has more opportunity with maybe a slightly worse play caller worth drafting ahead of Parker Washington? And so it's like, I think JMO is the perfect example of like, there's a little bit more opportunity in that offense right now. Like it's Amon-Ra and then it's him. And their defense sucks, but they have good play callers and they have a good quarterback and they're going to be playing from behind a ton. So I like JMO this year. But like other guys that I've seen similarly in that range of like Adunze or Christian Watson, it's like there's just as much target competition there. And the other thing about the Parker Washington news that has really stuck out to me is that it has never been Parker Washington hype at the expense of everyone else. Like they're saying, oh, yeah, Brian Thomas looks better in training camp. Oh, but Parker Washington had 8 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown again. Though Parker Washington was the most uncoverable person on the field. Like I think that as a route runner – and just as a football player, I think he's a little bit Amon-Ra-ish where it's like this guy might be kind of uncoverable. He's on the smaller side, but he's so shifty and he's physical and he's just always open. And everybody says that Trevor Lawrence doesn't have any problems throwing him the ball. Like they're going to have to design plays for everybody else, but that's the guy that Trevor Lawrence is looking at the most. And that was what happened when they played real football at the end of last year. at the end of last year when Brian Thomas was hurt, and even after they had gotten Jacoby Myers, it didn't matter. It was like Parker Washington. But I
Yeah.
still think he's a spike week guy. Like I can't move him like into the Devontae or Mike Evans territory because there's just too much target competition in Jacksonville.
Right.
Like as a 6th or 7th round guy, like I mean,
the upside's very
upside is just tantalizing. It kind of like weirdly enough, because they're not similar as players at all, but it kind of reminds me of like when George Pickens was on the Steelers. And it's like, yeah, George Pickens is going to have some really bad weeks because that offense that he was in was terrible. But when George Pickens went crazy, George Pickens single-handedly won you the week because you drafted him in the 8th round or 7th round. And like, hey, he just scored 30. Like I could see something like that happening, but just more consistently because they're in a great offense.
Yeah, that's my fear is he just maybe frustrating, even though he might be pretty good and he has some good spike weeks. He might be like Jameson Williams, just incredibly frustrating sometimes where he has like 3 catches for 18 yards. But he may have weeks too where he's 6 for 120 and 2 touchdowns, or 8 for 89 and 2 touchdowns. And yeah, I think that's just where I'm at for things, because yes, there's a lot of guys in that. There is a lot of target competition in Jacksonville. I just think it's a little bit different because we've seen it, like the track record. We know how talented these guys are. They were drafted high, like Carnell Tate, Rome Odunze, Jameson Williams. We've seen it from him before. Devontae Adams is a Hall of Famer. Christian Watson, we've seen it from him before in multiple stretches, coming off an ACL, not coming off an ACL. Like Marvin Harrison Jr., you can make a good argument against him. I get it. We haven't really seen consistency. So, I'm not going to blame people for taking Parker Washington over him. I'm not taking Parker Washington over Marv. I prefer Marv because, again, I just kind of am betting on these guys who were drafted 4th overall and have shown flashes before. But yeah, I totally get it. I might just be being what's the word I'm trying to look for? Stubborn on some of these players. I don't know. I just get like the hardest guy for me to draft, just because I start to think about all the ways it could go wrong, and then I'm like, okay, I can go a different direction. That's just my problem right now. But it may get to the point where, I never will press that button because he's going ahead of Devontae Adams. But if he continues to go where he's going right now and doesn't move up too much, I could see myself just being like, you know what, a couple of teams, let me grab him, because the upside is massive for sure. He's got a lot of he's got a nice role in that offense that could produce a ton of fantasy points. So I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about Parker Washington. This will not be the last time, for sure. Not be the last time that he'll be in some of my videos as well on the channel. But I want to quickly touch on Saquon Barkley. You wanted to bring up some things that you had concern over. Maybe you're trying to pull back slightly what you've heard early on. But yeah, go ahead and educate me there.
I was super pro Saquon. Couple of things that are a little scary that got brought to my attention. I saw a video on TikTok. I think the guy's name is Eli Duracell. So shout out to him for this one, just because he makes awesome content. Go check him out. But he had mentioned, because I had seen some stuff about Tank Bigsby. I had seen some stuff about Saquon. He's still learning the offense. He doesn't look fully comfortable. And then he kind of broke down Saquon's career, like yards per carry in a gap scheme versus a zone scheme, and on zone run plays. And he's like a sub-4 guy in zone, and he's like a over 5 guy in gap. And they're transitioning over to a more zone heavy scheme. I forget the new coordinator's name, but with the new coordinator that's coming in. So I'm a little bit worried about it if he's struggling to adjust. And then we are hearing some Tank Bigsby hype. I also think that he's getting older. They might like, hey, we got to get you to the second half of the season because
Right.
I mean, gosh, in 2020, what was it, 2024, when he ran for 2K, like they just ran him into the ground pretty much and ran him all the way to the Super Bowl, which, worth it. Like that'll
Yeah.
be one, that'll be probably the most legendary single season by a running back ever. I think you could argue between regular season and playoffs. You run for 2K in the regular season, and then you just run your team all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But at his current price, I was a big proponent, especially from like a dynasty perspective of like, hey, go grab him. Like his projections are high.
A lot
He
cheaper there too. A lot
he
cheaper.
a lot cheaper in dynasty. So I think I should also make that clear. Like I'm separating those two. But at his
Mhm.
current redraft price, I'm probably taking most of the guys in the group around him. Like I think if you were to look at all that group, like it's like K9, Chase Brown, Saquon, Genty, Hampton,
Hampton. Yeah.
Chan, like
Yeah.
those six are kind of all going in that round two running back cluster. And I would say that I'm probably off Saquon and Achan the most. And I
Yeah.
think they're both going to be really good players this year. Like I think they're still going to be productive, but I just don't know if they have like superstar league winning top 5 finish upside right now, like I did before. So
Okay.
that's kind of where
Sure.
I'm at. It's not like a hard like I refuse to draft him at all because I think I would still take Saquon maybe over Neighbors. I know we just talked about him, but like I'm probably taking him over Neighbors. But I
Right.
also think that he's kind of moved down in that tier for me, where I would maybe rather have like a Kenneth Walker, or a Chase Brown, or Hampton, Genty, like any of those guys. I like the upside swing, and just with the
Okay.
offenses that they're in, good fits with the play callers. So yeah, we'll kind of see what happens, but I was a little bit concerned when I saw that.
Yeah, I think that big tier of guys is a I mean, I kind of have them all in a similar tier. But yeah, I would probably put Achan. I'm with you on Achan. I'm not as big on him just because the offense, I don't think it's gonna be very good. He still can be. I think he can still be good, but yeah, I'm not gonna fight you on the Saquon thing too much. I'm more in the camp of the gap scheme thing, or the splits between the different schemes. I get it, but this Philly offensive line and offense in general is much better than whatever was going on with the Giants ever. So that's just kind of where I'm like, oh, okay, maybe the splits are a little bit, they can be deceiving. But I don't blame you with the whole like. There are some concerns with Saquon, like if they, just the fact that Jalen Hurts doesn't check the ball down. And the year that he did, like he's still so much on the goal line. Like I totally get it, and I'm not going to fight you on that. There are pros and cons with Saquon that I don't think, that I think make it, perfectly fine to push a Hampton. For sure, a Genty. I know a lot of people are. I like Genty a lot this year too. Chase Brown, it's a clean situation there. Kenneth Walker with the Chiefs. It makes total sense. So I'm not going to fight you too much on that. That's something we should definitely keep in mind too, especially if we start to hear more about Tank Bigsby and how maybe they're like, okay, you want to preserve Saquon, maybe they Tank Bigsby gets a little more work, and that's a reason to maybe push him to the back half of the tier of those running backs. But another guy quickly before we kind of get on to a few more big names that are definitely worth discussing because of how polarizing they are. But DJ Moore, you wanted to talk about DJ Moore, about some of the stuff he's getting. We're definitely going to be split on this, especially if you like DJ Moore. I've definitely been. I made a couple videos this year. He's been in a couple of my videos, and I've just lit into him. I like DJ
Really?
Moore, but he has not been my favorite the last couple of years. But go ahead.
I just think he is one of the more interesting guys. He's getting a lot of positive camp buzz right now. Like I think it's worth
Figures.
that from what I am seeing on my feed, which mainly around Buffalo is that everybody just hates the new jerseys, the alternates that they got. They look so awful. But he's getting a lot of, it's kind of similar to what people are saying about AJ Brown and Drake May, where it's like, oh yeah, Josh Allen really, he's been finding him a lot in 11 on 11s, and he's been looking his way a lot. DJ Moore is such a fascinating player to me, and I don't really know how I feel about him because I don't think that I'm in the camp of like, hey, let's overdraft, like let's draft him high because he's on the Bills now and he's playing with Josh Allen on one of the league's most explosive offenses. But I also don't hate him either because it's like I was looking at DJ Moore and I know that not all of this is like super positive, but I talk all the time about like what's required in order, like if you were basically just to divide everybody's numbers by 10, and then it's like, all right, well, if you're finish as wide receiver 1 through 10, you're a wide receiver 1. That's a starter, top of the line starter. Finishes wide receiver 11 through 20, you're a wide receiver 2, still a starter, like still one of the 20 best guys. Finishes wide receiver 20 through 30, you're still a starting wide receiver and or flex play on, like you can be that on a good team. And DJ Moore across all his different teams, I mean, like last year was bad, wide receiver 35, but the Bears offense was crowded. But wide receiver 16, 6, 24, 18, 23, 16. Like this is a dude who has been consistently in the middle and has consistently been on the field his entire career. And so it's like, is that worth a shot in the mid rounds? Like maybe. But like I also think that Josh Allen likes throwing the ball to Shakir. I think that this is kind of the make or break year for Dalton Kincaid on whether or not they're going to use him. Like, I don't know, but I think that, it's kind of similar to the whole, like, situationally, I kind of think of it the same as like Mike Evans, but like worse. Like if you took Mike
Much
Evans
worse
talent level, but in like situation, and you moved it down 3 rounds in your fantasy draft, and it's like you're sitting there kind of staring at DJ Moore, and it's like, you know what, DJ Moore, you don't seem so bad after all.
Well, here's the thing though. You just disrespected Mike Evans. And
but it's true.
If Mike Evans was going 3 rounds, but Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer, and at 32 years old, he is still really good. I think the biggest issue with DJ Moore, and I don't know how big you are into him, and I'll just preface with this: I have Parker Washington ranked ahead of DJ Moore, and I have Parker Washington ranked behind Brian Thomas Jr. And I'm probably about like almost 15 spots behind ADP. He has consistently declined. He was bad last year. He was pretty bad the year before in a season that, like, I guess he finished with 14 points per game, but he had 140 targets and almost 100 catches. And you would think, how are you only getting
Justin Fields throwing him the ball?
I don't think that was Justin Fields.
Yeah. 24 was Justin Fields.
The year before that was Justin Fields, I thought.
No, last year was Caleb.
No, it was Caleb's rookie year was when, right? Because 24.
So what was the year that he finished as wide receiver 6?
If we're getting 2023 DJ Moore, where he had 10 points per game, that's what Justin Fields.
Yeah, that was
3 years ago. And that's me like, DJ Moore was terrible last year. And let's not forget this too. And Luther Burden for this, but Alameda Zacchaeus was a starting wide receiver for a lot of the year. Luther Burden didn't even really play till the end of the year. Colston Loveland wasn't playing for most of the year because Cole Kmet was playing. It was the DJ. I mean, DJ Moore ran the most routes by any Bears player by like 150 routes. He was out there all the time, consistently declined. It just like I understand he's in a better situation, and I think that he could be fine at his ADP. But there's so many guys like around that range. Like let's take for instance, like he's going around the range of he is going around the Devontaes, the J-Mos, the Roma Dunzeys, Carnell Tates, David Montgomery. Maybe not David Montgomery. I have him a little bit lower in my rankings. That's what I'm looking at. But yeah, I just don't know. Like, I don't know. It doesn't. He doesn't move me at all this year. It's more of like I'm way more into Dalton Kincaid. Even though he's kind of been a part-time player, I'd much rather bet on that. Khalil Shakir I don't really care for that much, but I mean, what do you think the target share, or what do you think the target difference is between Khalil Shakir and DJ Moore this year? Because honestly, I'd be willing to bet they're not far apart. Like if I wanted a guy who's like, go ahead.
That's because that's the only thing that Shakir is the only thing that I'm worried about. But Shakir doesn't play outside at all.
And think about that for a second. You're worried about if we're worried about Khalil Shakir, that's the of itself. That's why I'm like, if I really have to worry about Khalil Shakir taking away targets for my 5th round pick, I am not feeling good about it. Because look, as much crap as I'd like to give DJ Moore, I understand he's had a good career. But if I wanted a guy who is just going to be there to run routes, he's going to be on the field, I'd just take Romeo Doubs. Like I just take Romeo Doubs 5 rounds later, 6 rounds. Like who's just gonna, if I want a guy who's just gonna, he's gonna have a decent floor. I get maybe he could rekindle some magic. He has Josh Allen, but yeah, the DJ Moore thing is polarizing because I see it really is. It feels like it's for the most part, it's like you're on one end of the spectrum or the other. Like you either love them or you're like, I don't really take any. I haven't seen anybody who's like, oh yeah, I take DJ Moore, a good amount, about like 8% of the time, like which is about average. It's like I don't know. He's the guy that we will not touch the entire year just because I don't really know what I win if I take him. I don't know what he does for me.
Yeah, and see, like I think too that there's so many polarizing players in that range. Like DJ Moore over Brian Thomas, absolutely. Like I
Really?
I don't think that Shakir is enough target comp because he doesn't stay on the field in 2 wide receiver sets. Like DJ Moore will be on the field constantly. They've been looking for somebody who would basically be like Diggs without the diva-ness. So it's like that's why I compare, like, not the player, but I compare the situation to Mike Evans significantly because it's like player in a new offense that's a good offense with not a ton of target competition. Like, would I rather have that than Brian Thomas Jr., who's got 4 viable pass catchers around him? Yes.
But his average 16 points per game in his rookie year and was a total monster.
Yeah. But that's the DJ Moore problem though, is because like I know it's been a long time, but DJ Moore has also produced like that before. And I think too, I wouldn't understate it in the same way that Roma Dunze was not a Ben Johnson guy, neither was DJ Moore. That trade was made before, so I cut him some slack for that. And
yeah,
like I don't know. I think yes, fantasy football is all about upside, but you also have to draft floor raisers too. And so I think he also depends on the construction of your team so far. Like if your team is just boring, like then yeah, go get the Parker Washington or the Brian Thomas or Marv or whoever else is going around that ADP that could be a star. Like if your team is already kind of boring as is, but like,
right.
If you drafted some guys that were a little riskier early, I'm looking at that like, he could be a fantastic safety blanket. He hasn't ever finished he hardly ever finishes outside of the top 20. Like that's valuable.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't love a lot of the guys in that range. Like, I like Brian Thomas for like dynasty, let's just say. I'd rather
Yeah.
see what it looks like this, maybe he potentially gets moved. I don't love Makai Lemon. I don't love Jordan Tyson. Marvin Harrison, I have my question marks about. Christian Watson, I like actually more, but I'm not totally in love with him. I don't know. It's a range where you're kind of okay. It is upside. DJ Moore does have some floor to him, so maybe that's some. What like I don't know. DJ Moore, he's declined over the past couple years. Everybody says he's not a diva, but I watched this guy walk off the field mid play. Like, I don't know if you remember that. Do you remember he in the middle of the play stopped in his route and walked off? Maybe that's why Ben's not a fan.
Yeah.
Because when you see stuff like that, you're like, I didn't draft you. I didn't give you a contract, but I definitely don't like that. Like, it just, I don't know. That's a lot of question mark. That's kind of irrelevant, but yeah, DJ Moore's a guy that I probably won't be taking a lot. I can be convinced on Parker Washington, but DJ Moore is gonna, I'm gonna need someone to come in. I'm gonna need Josh Allen to come out and say, I will give him 150 targets. Otherwise, yeah, whatever. I don't know. It's just I struggle with him a ton. I'm sure we'll talk more about DJ Moore because we're gonna talk more about a lot of these guys. But name someone I really want to hear where you're at with, because I just made a video on him. I made a video about ambiguous backfields this year, who to target in each backfield, kind of where they're going right now. Some of these players, like Jonathan Brooks, is maybe, right there with Parker Washington, probably one of the most polarizing this year for sure. At least I envision him being a guy that's like barely played any snaps. I don't know if it's accurate. I forgot to check how many carries he's actually had in his career, but I think someone said it was like 11 snaps he's played in his first 2 seasons.
4 carries or something like that.
Yeah, this dude's not played at all. Like, we have not seen him play football since pretty much that last half season, I think, or like almost towards the end of the season when he was at Texas. I love the prospect. I also love the fact that his run out looks pretty good with Chuba Hubbard of all people in front of him. It's basically like it's ripe for the taking. I've been actually drafting quite a bit of Jonathan Brooks, but I am a little bit scared that he starts to climb a little bit too high. But of course, we have preseason coming up. We're going to hear more of this buzz coming in, but he's already like that rocket ship is already pretty much landed on the moon. So yeah, I want to know where you're at with him. Are you taking him a lot, or are you backing off at this current price?
Definitely where I'm at with it is cautious. I personally, like, if you're looking at running backs in that range, I like the Steelers backfield a lot better. Like, I would be much more likely to be all over Dowdle or Jaylen Warren, especially Jaylen Warren, just because of the Aaron Rodgers check down rate, and it's the Steelers. They always find a way to be extremely mediocre, which usually means that they're going to run the ball a lot and the running backs will be involved. So in that range of players, I kind of like, going back to your ambiguous backfield video, I like them better. When you're looking at being that late in a draft, unless you went hero running back, which I don't necessarily think is a smart strategy, or no RB, zero running back, where you're just going to take a bunch of dart throws in the 5th round.
Don't do that
Later. That's a stupid strategy for winning in fantasy football, especially with the way that the NFL is actually moving back to running the football a lot more, just stylistically, because of, too high has been deployed to kind of stop all the 5,000 yard passers from the early 2010s and then late 2010s. I don't know. I just personally, I think Brooks is a fun upside swing. Like, as long as he's still going outside the top 30 running backs, I'm all in for, draft him. Can't hurt. He was a second-round pick. His situation reminds me a little bit of J.K. Dobbins, where it's like second-round pick, extremely talented college player, deals with just tons and tons of injuries, because it's also like I think he's one injury away from saying, all right, like, you can't reliably draft this guy. But like, am I taking Jonathan Brooks over RJ Harvey? Yes. Do I like Jonathan? Like, like, do I like Jonathan Brooks more than JCM? Yes. Even though I like JCM, the football player, a lot. It's no knock on him, but Jonathan Brooks could catch some passes. He could contribute around the goal line. And if Chuba Hubbard can lose his job once, he could lose it twice. The one caution I would give to everyone is that I thought that when they originally extended Chuba Hubbard, I thought he looked really good as a runner. I would be a little cautious that maybe he was dealing with some injuries last year. The jury's still kind of out on him for me too. But like, I have him on a couple of dynasty teams, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna hold, because I want to know if that was just kind of a lucky streak, or if he really like was dealing with something last year. And I think that it's not outside the realm of possibilities. I also think that Rico Dowdle is kind of a decent football player. There's that too, but I also know he's not relevant enough to where it's like, yeah, you got your chain snatched by him. That's not a good look.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Like,
there you go.
Where he's at, great. I think that if he started creeping into like the RB28 range, RB27, like, I'm
like, if he starts going next to Jadarian Price, you're like, okay, this is not for me.
Yeah, no shot. Yeah. I even like I'd say Steelers backfield. I also like Ramondre Stevenson, and
I think that's where he ends up. I think that's the ends up at. Yeah, like Jaylen Warren, Ramondre range.
That's kind of where I'm at with him. But I would take those guys before taking a shot. But if he's in the 10th or 11th, 12th round, it's not gonna hurt. Like, that's a depth piece.
No, yeah, 100%.
You're picking Kenneth Gainwell off of waivers in week 2 because you need some depth. Like, can't kill you.
Yeah, no, I think we're in lockstep there about Brooks. I think it's just there's a point where it gets to be too much. Jaylen Warren, I'd rather have. Ramondre, I'd rather have. But if they name him the starter, they're like, Jonathan Brooks is our guy. He's going to be our lead back. Then I'm like, okay. Then I think I start to think, I may potentially take him ahead of Jaylen Warren. But Jaylen Warren's safe. Ramondre's safe. Better offenses. Well, maybe not better offenses. I think for sure New England's is going to be with Stevenson. But I just like the safety of Warren a little bit more. Brooks is fun now. I'll be taking. I've taken a bunch of Brooks in one of my FFPC leagues. I took Jonathan Brooks, and I think like the 9th round, into the 9th. But yeah, I think he's going to go even higher. I think he's like in the 6th round, FFPC, which is crazy. I'm not going to be taking him. There's just no way. There comes a point, like I've stated a couple of times, like, what do you win when you take him that high? Because you're taking him in front of a lot of guys who chance to outscore him. And that's like around the range. That's like the quarterback range where it's like Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Burrow, Caleb, Hurts, and like Jonathan Brooks or an elite quarterback like that. Then you're like, no chance. But yeah, Jonathan Brooks is fun. And then named it, we're definitely going to be talking about, because it's like Washington, just like Parker Washington. It's just the drum beat so loud. It's hard to ignore it. But let's move on to another running back and a guy who is 3rd overall pick right now with Jeremiah Love, about how Tyler Algier is going to be working in. James Conner's going to get his touches, and I kind of expected this was going to happen. I think it might be a little frustrating early on. I'll just, come out with my stance on Jeremiah Love. He is one of my guys for this year. Even as a rookie, I think he was the third overall pick. Last year, Genty was going in round 1, early round 2. This guy's going in like round 3. Insane. Like he's close to the same level as Genty, like prospect wise. I get it. The offense isn't great. The Raiders offense wasn't good last year either. So if anybody wants to make that conversation, you want to have that conversation, whatever. The Raiders offense was potentially going to be worse than this Arizona offense. But yeah, a legendary running back prospect going in like the 3rd round, catches passes, home run hitting ability. I don't think it lasts very long. I think Algier probably mixes in, kind of like similar to like Bijan's rookie year when Tyler Algier, once again, Tyler Algier, we're talking about the same guy who mogged Bijan on the goal line at times. I get it. I think him as a pass catcher, I think towards the end of the year, playing for, week 6 to 8 onward, he's going to be phenomenal. I've expected it. The only thing that concerns me is I think the offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett, is the guy who came out during a press conference, and I just rolled my eyes. I'm like, dude, with the exception of your like a year or 2 in Green Bay with Rodgers when he won MVP. By the way, Aaron Rodgers we're talking about right now. Hall of Fame, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He has been terrible everywhere he's been. Somehow these guys just keep getting jobs. And I'm not ever calling for someone else's job, but when you're that job, coming out and saying things like this about the 3rd overall pick, 1, you're not buddy, and 2, it just makes you look stupid. That's just kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody, but man, you can't. It's really silly to me. I think Algier is going to be frustrating early on with Jeremiah, maybe eating into a little bit of Love's workload, but this is one of my guys for the year. Jeremiah, I am big on. Inside my top 24. I don't mind taking him in the middle to the end of the 2nd round, more like towards the end of the 2nd round. Completely fine with me, but the price is great. So yeah, I want to hear where you're at. I wonder if you're, feel the same as me.
No, I couldn't disagree more. I would not.
All right.
Jeremiah Love at his current ADP. I think to me,
it's a great
it's like,
ADP.
Did we not learn from Genty? Did we not learn from Bijan? And in no way, like, I love Jeremiah Love, the prospect. I think he's going to be awesome in the NFL. I think that they have invested way too much in him for him to fail long term. But I think a few things. First, the Cardinals are not going to be a good football team this year. There's no need to run your running back into the ground when you are a bad football team. That they're not going to win many games because they're still trying to figure out who their franchise quarterback's going to be. It's year 1 of LaFleur. So like they have no incentive to win. It might mean that he catches some extra passes, but I just don't see it. 2, Tyler Algier. I think him and James Conner are going to run the ball and be on the field a lot more than people want to admit to themselves. Tyler Algier is a good football player too. Another one of those guys that will never be fantasy relevant, but I personally like watching him run the football. And I think he's one of those guys where he's annoying because it's like you don't want him on the team of the running back that you love. But this guy is good enough at the game of football. He's good enough and efficient enough runner. He's good enough around the goal line. He's competent enough as a pass blocker, not a great pass catcher, like volume wise, but he can catch the ball. That like he's a little bit of a pest to have, in the backfield with your favorite running back. And so I don't know if the volume is going to be there to justify a 3rd round ADP. And then my last point is that offensive line is going to be bad this year. They have not invested in the offensive line nearly enough. It is why I'm still terrified of Marvin Harrison Jr. because he doesn't win quick like the other 2 do. I'm gonna stand 10 toes on that point, and then I'm gonna point at Jeremiah Love, and I'm gonna say, so if I think that that's true about Marvin Harrison Jr. because of that, then why would I not double down and think, yeah, Jeremiah Love might not be the most efficient this year, similar to how Ashton Genty was last year. And he's going to have moments. He's going to have good games. He's going to have huge runs. But I just don't think that the season long production is going to be there like a Gibbs rookie year, like a Najee Harris rookie year, like a Saquon rookie year. I think it's going to be much more along the lines of like what Bijan was his rookie year, what Genty was, and those are fine football players, and they're great dynasty assets, great long term, guys that have turned into stars eventually. But I don't think it's happening year one, and so at that ADP, I'm not touching him. And honestly, he's one of those guys where it's like, yeah, I might need to see him in like the 4th round to be like, okay, yeah, that's like, it would have to be just stupid value for me to want to, because I just don't think the has nothing to do with the player. I don't think the situation's going to be there. And like on the contrary, like I think Jadarian Price is way underdrafted because it's like that team just won the freaking Super Bowl. They have an awesome offensive line. They're talking about him playing all 3 downs in camp right now. They're going to need him to. And I think Jeremiah Love, I mean, he started over him. He was a much better football player than Jadarian Price at Notre Dame. But there comes a point where it's like, that situation might be too good to ignore this year. Like, I'd be much more comfortable drafting that situation than the Cardinals behind the Cardinals offensive line. I just don't see a path to where you can take him in the 3rd round, and then your team wins the league.
Okay, here's where I'm just gonna you're losing this one for sure. I'm telling. I cannot wait to revisit this this time. Not even just this time next year, but at the end of the season, when look, Bijan, Genty, right? You don't like their prices. You see it similar to it. They were 1st round picks their rookie years. You were spending a 3rd round pick, the 3rd overall pick, and you could potentially start your draft with Bijan, Gibbs, Chase, or Puka. Come back around, take your neighbors. You can take your Drake London. You can take your Brock Bowers, Nico Collins, Rashee Rice. For your 2nd running back, you can take Jeremiah Love. That is already been baked in because we're so gung ho, and I completely understand. I think his ADP is too low. I think he should be going at the mid 2nd, or I guess the end of the 2nd. He's going like early 3rd, middle 3rd. Like there's just no, because we've been burnt recently. But think about Jonathan Taylor's rookie year. Not a good Colts team. Actually, was a guy in front of him to begin the season. Jonathan Taylor took over. Phenomenal rookie year. Even Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Jahmyr Gibbs was was incredibly disappointing beginning his rookie season. Wasn't until the 2nd half that he took off. I think that's going to be similar to what Jeremiah Love does. We were taking Genty, Bijan in the 1st round, and they finished. You mentioned they both averaged basically 14.5 points per game. Ashton Genty was the RB 16 last year. Jeremiah Love's going off the board at the RB 13. So even if he finishes around in that range, I mean, one, you're not losing that much, and you have already the potential upside to finish as, like a Saquon did. And Saquon wasn't set up very good his rookie year. He had an old Eli Manning and a terrible Giants offense behind a bad O-line. Jeremiah Love catches the ball. He's a phenomenal prospect. He breaks off these big runs. Need volume. He doesn't need to be on an incredible offense, because I don't even think Bijan, I know the past 2 seasons he's been over 20 points per game. The Falcons offense is not good, but we're taking Bijan at the 2nd overall pick in drafts. So the conversation becomes for me okay, Do I want to take George Pickens or do I want to take Jeremiah Love? Like it's such an easy answer for me. Do I want to take Chris Olave or Jeremiah Love? Do I want to take Nico Collins, Brees Hall, or Jeremiah Love? I just rather take the shot on the guy who's has a chance to potentially be the RB1 overall. I don't think he's going to be the RB1 overall. Maybe he's not even a top 3 or 5 running back. Maybe those odds are slim. But I could see him out Marion Hampton. I could see him outscoring Kenneth Walker, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry. I could see him being right there with Aston Genty, who, by the way, is not in a good offense. Once again, they have Fernando Mendoza, but they're going to start Kirk Cousins to start the year. It just blows my mind. Like, they have no receivers. They have just Brock Bowers. Not a good O-line. And it's like all the same things that we talk about. You know, people want to get excited about a Ashton Genty, a Devon Achane, stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, okay, why are we not as excited about a rookie running back who was just taken third overall and is just as talented and honestly, and is just as bad of an offense? Like, the Cardinals offense is probably not going to be great, but they got Marv, Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, and they have pieces way more than, you know, than Miami does with Achane. But, you know, I mean, I could go on and on about this all day. I'm going to be taking a crap load of Jeremiah Love, and I will be happily snatching him in the end of the second, early third round, even if he falls in the mid third round. It's just a steal. I understand people's concerns, but there's no argument. Like, this guy doesn't need, you know, 20 to 25 touches a game. He can average 16 points a game on 15 to 18 touches. Like, I don't know. It will the people like were so hurt by Bijan and Genty the past couple of years, like, that we've thrown this guy third round. But that's just kind of where I'm at. I
just
expect him to be splitting early on.
Like, I personally think that way too much depends on his receiving volume, and with the backfield already crowded as is, like,
right.
I think that the worst case is that he does finish similar to Genty, where they don't throw the ball to him as much. And I'm a little concerned about how crowded but talentless that offense is. Like, that offense is missing a line and it's missing an elite quarterback, but it's got a couple of decent wide receivers that they're trying. Like, they drafted Marv fourth too. They've got to figure out what they're going to do with all these guys. And I just think that way too much is going to depend on his receiving upside. And if Jacoby Brissett starts checking him down the ball a bunch, then I think I'm going to be wrong about this one. Similar to Gibbs his rookie year. Like, most of Gibbs's, you know, points his rookie year came off of catches. A lot of the fact that Bijan still finished top 10 was because of his receiving volume. The reason that Najee Harris was so good his rookie year was because of his receiving volume. Like, I think that's the number one indicator of running back success in their rookie year. And the main questions are, the offense is bad, but they have a lot of pass catchers. And, like, I think the offensive line is going to be too bad for them to really effectively run the football a ton. And then they also have James Conner and Algier. Like, it's not going to be like a Bijan situation where he's on the field all the time or most of the time his rookie year. So it's like, I don't know. I'm a little more cautious. I'm fine with him in the third, like mid third is where I'm starting to look at it and be like, yeah, I'll take a swing on that. Like, a couple of the guys that you listed, I would take Jeremiah Love over them, but some of them not so much, just because of the opportunity.
Look, y'all can play scared. Y'all play scared all you want. Like, I mean, I understand being hesitant to take swings on some places, but just feels like the easiest swing of all time where he's going. People can play scared. That's fine. They can do what they want. I'll be happily laughing to the bank with Jeremiah Love this year. Doesn't make any sense to me, but hey, we'll move on here. We'll talk. We're going to be talking so much about Jeremiah Love, especially. I know the first time that the first offense, they're going to have the first team offense out there, and Tyler Algier is going to take the first 2 snaps or the first drive, and be like, "I told you, Jeremiah Love. He's no." I already know. I know that's going to happen, but on to the last guy here. So we're going to talk about the last guy here. We're going to talk about Matthew Golden, another guy who's, of course, the way I'm kind of reading it is he's a guy who disappointed in his rookie year. No more Dobbs. All these beat reporters, the team, of course, is going to be positive about him. They want him to have a big role this year because they spent high draft capital on him. It's probably embarrassing office and GM to have had what happened last year with Golden. He did absolutely nothing. I made a video on this. I don't think I've really taken it at all. And I'm a Texas fan, first and foremost. I'm a huge University of Texas fan. I love Matthew Golden, but dude, he was so bad during his rookie year. It's a different conversation than with Parker Washington. At least we've seen it with Parker Washington. We have not seen it with Matthew Golden. Like, he just did not do anything last year, and there's a long track record. I'll throw up a list. I made a list of guys who have had less. I think it was like 500 yards and 50 yards as a rookie. It's not pretty. They're all busts. And if you want to call QJ a hit now, sure. But if that's the best we're hoping for, we're grasping at straws here. I think Devontae Adams is about the only guy. I don't even think he's on this list because he was so far back. But yeah, how are you feeling about Matthew Golden? Are you kind of buying the little bit of hype that he's getting, or are you more Christian Watson and Jaden Reed?
I'm scared of all of them. I like Christian Watson's big play ability the most. I think that Jaden Reed is the most talented football player out of the 3 of them in terms of his ability to separate consistently, win on routes, and get open. Like, I'm a big Jaden Reed fan. I also have seen a report that all 3 of them are expected to play in all the 2 wide receiver sets this year. So the news out of Packers camp to me is baffling right now. I think that Golden could be worth a late pick somewhere. I'm not even sure where he's going right now. Personally, I didn't necessarily prepare for it well enough. It was more just he's in 2 wide receiver sets now, and he was a first round pick. So and there are some indicators from his college tape that he is a talented football player that is capable of getting open and making big plays. And then
he's around just for reference so you can get a good idea, he goes around like Wan'Dale Robinson, Romeo Dobbs, Worthy, not Chris Godwin, Diggs, like guys like that. So
yeah, and because it was also I saw a couple of videos that different guys made where it was he was the number 1 fantasy points under expected guy. He was the number 1 separation score combined with least amount of targets. He had, in terms of if you're looking at the way that the analytics guys kind of look at fantasy football, he is the most polarizing player because the analytics still liked him after last year, and yet he was the least productive player that analytics have ever liked. So that's confusing. Yeah. And the Packers haven't, and my bet is that they're still going to mix it up. My other bet is that knowing those 3, one of them will get hurt. And so you're basically just grabbing, one of them's going to hurt their hamstring at some point, and the other 2 will get a lot of opportunity. I personally think in that offense, the only 2 guys that I really want are Jacobs and Tucker Kraft. And then the wide receivers, maybe Jaden Reed in the mid rounds, maybe Christian Watson. but it's similar to Jacksonville. It's similar to the Bears. It's kind of like a light version of both of those teams, where it's like, we know this is going to be a good offense, but
Right.
who's going to be productive? I'm not going to sit here and try to predict it. If
it might just be week to week.
Yeah.
Like,
if Golden's going late enough, but back to the couple players you mentioned, I want Wandale over Golden, because I think that Wandale is probably going to get 100 more designed targets like he does every year with Brian Daboll. Like he has the most designed targets in the NFL, or something stupid where it's like him and Jamar Chase get the most designed targets, or him and Puka, like something dumb where it's like, why is Wandale Robinson in analytics with the most elite fantasy wide receivers in the NFL? But like, I probably want Wandale. They're going to be down a lot. They're going to throw the ball a lot. And then the other, but like Dobbs, like I'll take Golden over Dobbs. Like the Patriots, Drake May was throwing touchdown passes at the end of the year to Case, or Demario Douglas and Efton Chisholm and Hunter Henry, and the Patriots just spread the ball out all year last year. Like I don't think with AJ Brown there that Dobbs is going to just carve out this awesome number 2 role, even though he did get paid a little bit. So like in that range, I don't trust anything that I'm hearing from Packers training camp, because like I said, they literally said that all 3 of them were expected to play in 2 wide receiver sets. That's not possible.
Yeah, they're probably going to alternate. I bet Christian Watson, I imagine. They were talking about Matthew Golden. He's going to be the X, and they're moving Christian Watson around the formation. They'll kind of all play, they'll all rotate different positions, slot, Z, X. Like they'll kind of be all going to be moved around a little bit. But yeah, it could be frustrating this year. And that is honestly good to go back to Christian Watson. That could be something that, I don't know, makes him a little bit frustrating. But from what I saw last year, he seems to be the guy who stays on the field the most. He does a little bit of everything. Like he could have some big weeks. He seems to be pretty good after the catch too. And yeah, he was productive last year by far, or at least consistency wise. But yeah, Matthew Golden's going to be one to watch too. I would actually, I don't know. I don't take a lot of him just because what I saw from his rookie year, but here and there, I'm also drafting in volume too, so I'm drafting way more than other people. So that's why, even with me drafting, I don't take much of him. But I don't see a problem with you taking him, let's say in the 10th, 11th round. I don't think it's anything wrong with that, to be honest with you, just because there is some upside. Because if he is just an outlier guy who's drafted in the first round, and he's just in a good offense too. Like let's say there is an injury and it opens things up, and it's just Christian Watson and Golden all year. Tucker Kraft comes along slow. I do think Matthew Golden, there's a scenario where I just have a hard time after his rookie year trusting it. Yeah, definitely some interesting buzz. We are definitely going to have to get more guys. We're going to hear even more after this next week of preseason. Unfortunately, I'm sure more injuries are going to come up. I believe like Josh Downs got a little banged up. He has a groin injury. Flowers is banged up. Some of this stuff I'm just kind of like not really worth mentioning too much. I believe Tucker Kraft is about to be taken off the pup, so that's good to hear. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just a lot more to sift through. We're not even to the first couple days of preseason with everything. We had the Hall of Fame game, but that's just about it that we've gotten so far. So it's going to be very interesting to see what of. But yeah, we had a couple more guys on this list, but we go a while, so we had to cut a little bit short. But we're going to be talking about them. Don't worry about that. But yeah, thank you guys for everybody who came in, who tuned in. We're excited to get to see what happens in the first week of preseason. It's going to be fun. Football is after the Hall of Fame game. It's officially here. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching. And this ends episode 5. And yeah, like always, we'll hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and we'll see you guys next time.